Now to Roger Stone, the longtime advisor to President Trump, left the district courthouse here in Washington, D.C., and just like before, gave the victory sign like his friend Richard Nixon did. Stone pleaded not guilty on several charges connected to Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe investigation. Now, his arraignment came just days after an early morning raid of his home. For more on Stone, the Mueller investigation, we turn to investigative journalist Ben Swann. And Ben, while you're quite dapper yourself, I'm not bringing you on to comment on Stone's fashion, which I think itself it should be in a lookbook by the end of it.
Today was the most normal thing he's worn in years.
Well, I mean, if you're going to jail, you might as well. I don't know. I can't explain his fashion sense, but what I can try to explain is how did we get to an early morning pre-dawn raid on Friday in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, with a camera crew outside?
Yeah, so I've been saying this for days now, and I'll continue to say it. This is theater. This is all political theater. The fact that the FBI would go to his home. Okay, this is a guy who has posed no threat to anyone, says he owns no gun. His wife is with him. She's deaf. They have one little dog in the house. And you have 29 armed SWAT agents, FBI agents at the door. You have 2 amphibious vehicles in a canal behind his house. You have armored vehicles outside and a helicopter overhead. This is Roger Stone. This is a guy who the crime they say he committed was he lied to Congress. And you have this kind of show of force. So it's theater on the part of the FBI. It's theater on the part of the FBI by calling CNN and letting them know in advance where they're going. At least that's what it looks like. Let them know in advance that this was going to happen so the whole thing could be captured on video. And on the other side, you have Roger Stone, who himself is a part of this theater with his Nixon peace signs and walking out, and you know the protesters who are outside calling him traitor. It feels like we're watching the really bad end of House of Cards. That's what this all feels like.
House of Cards, I think you're giving it a compliment. I'm almost thinking like the Real Housewives of the White House, I feel like, at this point, the drama that goes into it. But the bigger picture in all of this, did Friday's morning raid kind of justify, for those people who do think there is a deep state or a group within the government that's trying to target Trump and his friends, did this kind of validate their fears, their accusations?
I think it did, and I think it did for good reason. And one of the reasons it did was because if you read this 24-page indictment, and I've read the entire indictment, there's not one mention of Russia anywhere in this indictment. There is no mention that Roger Stone himself had direct contact with WikiLeaks whatsoever. In fact, what it says is, if anything, it shows that Roger Stone had no actual access to WikiLeaks, no actual access to Julian Assange, and is desperately trying to be a player, desperately trying to find some kind of connection. I think that this shows that there is something going on here where, again, everyone says, show me the connection. There is no connection, but a huge effort being made to create theatrics as if they've finally taken down like one of the big links here, but there's no link.
Well, that's the thing. And a few hours later, he was released on his own on what is probably a lot of money to most people, but to him, $250,000 bond, you pay 10% of it, and you're out on your own. You walk out on your own. You show up today. Today we saw huge, I say huge, there were protesters out there waving flags and signs and yelling. It felt like we're watching theater, but the question is, who are these protesters? Who actually cares enough to take time out of their day, now that the government's back to work, to go outside and protest and yell things at Roger walking in?
And to hold up pre-made signs that say traitor, or pre-made signs that say how he's betrayed us. It looks like, you know, paid protesters. We see them at so many different marches, so many different events. Don't know yet. I'm sure when we find out who it is, you know, this is a Soros-backed group, a Media Matters for America-backed group that's paying these protesters to be there and to do this. But again, it's not based on any evidence. Roger Stone, if you say he's a traitor to whom? What did he betray? Who did he betray? There's no betrayal here. Assange leaked the emails, and the emails weren't lies. They weren't untrue. In fact, if anything, the emails told us the story of who John Podesta was and who Hillary Clinton was and what they thought about
So
people.
why aren't we seeing the prosecution of that? That's been my big complaint. I'm like, yes, we should figure out who got them and how they got them. I understand. But on the other hand, we actually need, there was a lot of very damaging, but I think also illegal activity, because it proved that the Clinton campaign, the Clinton Foundation were 1 and 1, that the things were going on in the State Department.
Sure.
So why are we not seeing and every time you bring up Hillary's emails, they go, oh, that's old news.
Right.
Why aren't we seeing that?
But the thing is, we bring up Hillary's emails only because that is the source of where a lot of this began, right? And the other problem is this lying in front of Congress. I got to go to this real quick, because this concept of lying in front of Congress being this great crime. James Clapper in 2013 lied to Congress. It's on the record. He said there was no metadata collection program. He said in front of the Senate, under oath, we are not collecting information on Americans. It was a lie. He later said that was the least untruthful thing I could say. meaning he lied.
But if your children said to you, least untruthful, would you look at her and say, you're still grounded?
You're still lying.
Okay.
And then Brennan, also the head of the CIA, lied when he said that there was no torture program, then lied when he said he was not snooping on senators investigating the torture program. Neither of them faced any single charge. Lying in front of Congress happens on a regular basis in Washington. So why in this particular case, not only are you prosecuting, I'm not saying they shouldn't, I'm saying why in this case are you prosecuting, but even more so, the show of force that went along with it. No one's raiding James Clapper's home. They're not showing up with at John Brennan's home with amphibious vehicles and bearcats outside to arrest him.
And they're actually younger and probably a lot more fit than Roger would be to actually, if they wanted to get away, exactly. Sorry, Roger, but I'm gonna state the truth and the facts on that one.
Yeah.
So then my question for you is, why is it? Why such a public display of force in this case with this supporter?
Because I think the FBI, whether it's Mueller's investigation and the FBI or just the FBI, somebody wanted the optics, right? They wanted the optics of, we are taking down this high-profile person. And I love the way when you read the mainstream articles, they'll say things like, this is the greatest example so far of a person linked to an organization that may be linked to Russia. So basically, you still got nothing. But in so many people's minds, those mainstream viewers, they now think something big happened because they saw it on their TV, even if they can't recall exactly who it was or why it happened.
Well, this is probably the most credit to Roger's ego that he's had probably in a long time from the mainstream press. Thanks for joining us, Ben. Great to have you in studio.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.